Hey everyone, it's Monday and time for Monday Mastery. I'm dating coach, dating disruptor, Rick Sodabeer, and we'll wait for a couple of people to jump on here. It's a hot day, really a hot day. I this is the first intense heat we've had up in northern Wisconsin. And so now I understand what you guys are going through down in Missouri, in Arkansas, in Oklahoma, in Texas, and other parts of the country. So it was a scorcher, or it is a scorcher here. I think our heat index, I don't know, was about 105 at one point. But it was funny because I drove 15 miles down the road earlier today and it was 20 degrees cooler because there was a nice breeze off the lake. But anyway, I hope you guys all had a great weekend. Hey, Nancy, yeah, it is hot. Probably not as hot here as it is where you're at, but it's hot nonetheless. So I hope you guys everybody had a great week last week and a wonderful weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the guys. Hey, Addie, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. And why don't we get going? We've got a few people on here now. So the question I had for today is: do you feel pressured to date, to have sex, to be in a relationship? And where's that pressure coming from? Is that an external pressure? Is that people pressuring you into dating? Are family and friends pushing you in that direction? Are the people you're dating pressuring you for sex, or to jump into bed before you're ready? And a relationship, are you feeling pressured to be in a relationship? Again, that can come from family and friends, or hey, Nancy says no pressure. Awesome. Or is it coming from pressure you're putting on yourself? A lot of times I find that we put pressure on ourselves for a lot of things, and not just relationship wise, but in our lives, time frames. I know I'm totally guilty of putting pressure on myself to get certain projects on. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining in. Addie says, let me get this up here. Addie says, it's pressure I'm putting on myself. And Addie, I think you're not alone. I think I think we tend to do that to ourselves. Hey, Shar, thanks for joining in. And I'm glad to see you're here. I got to move this over just a little bit so I can see sorry for bouncing things around. Anyway, I think we put a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations on ourselves for things to happen a lot sooner than they do. Shar says I do that all the time. I think we all do to some extent. It's finding a date. A lot of times we pressure ourselves into finding a date because, and it could be for any number of reasons. It could be for primarily for fear of being alone, fear of getting older, fear of not having anyone in our lives, fear of financial insecurity, fear of having to make all the decisions ourselves. There can be any number of reasons that we put that pressure on ourselves. And don't misunderstand me. There are well-intentioned, especially for those of you that are widowed, there are well-intentioned family and friends that push us into getting back into a relationship. They want to see us happy. They want to make sure that because they're in a relationship, they think that everybody needs to be in a relationship. And which yes, we're all designed to be in relationship, but there are seasons for that. And at least in my opinion, that there are times that when we are single, it's a season for being single. There are lessons we may need to learn. There are things we need to heal from. There are areas in our life where we need to grow. And a lot of times we can't do that in a relationship. And if we rush, if we pressure ourselves into getting into a relationship, I guarantee you 99% of the time, maybe 99.5% of the time, we're making bad decisions. And Shar says, "You read my checklist." Well, Shar, I'm going down this same road with you. We worry about age. We worry about being alone. We worry about all these different things. And the reality is, we need to take time. We need to take time to heal. And the sad part is we live in such an immediate gratification society that we expect everything to happen right now. And we can trace this pretty much back to the invention of the TV dinner. It started the ball rolling. Back in the 50s when the first TV dinners came out. I know they made life easier in some respects, but in a lot of respects it was the trigger to get things done faster, to reduce workload, to do any number of things. And so consequently now we expect relationships to just magically manifest themselves in our lives and not realize the work that we have to put in to first find the right person and then develop that relationship. In addition to an immediate gratification society, we're in a very disposable society, and where everything is disposable. TV breaks down, you don't fix it anymore, or for the most part you don't fix it. You just throw it away and buy a new one. Your refrigerator breaks down. Very rarely do you get that fixed anymore. And that it breaks down and you're off to the appliance store looking for a new refrigerator. And it's not that these things can't be fixed. Number one, it's just there aren't a lot of people to fix these things anymore. And number two, by the time I had a relatively new tool, a cordless saw, that it broke on me, and I took it to a repair shop, a factory authorized repair shop, and they said, yeah, it's almost cheaper for you to go and buy a new one. By the time you get the parts and the labor to take it apart, put the new parts in, and put it back together, I ended up buying a new saw instead. And our relationships are like that too. We end up, if we and I'm walking a fine line here, and I'm talking about really strong, healthy relationships that you come into a little bit of problem and you're not willing to work at it. Now, I'm not talking about relationships where excuse me, we've got pollen like crazy going on up here, and my allergies are going crazy, so bear with me for a second. All too often we just settle, because we're in this immediate gratification society. We got to have somebody in our life. We've got to have somebody sitting next to us. We've got to have somebody to talk to at night. And while we all, hey Terry, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. And rather than being patient, rather than holding out for extraordinary or for your soulmate, we end up settling. And I say we because I've done the same thing. Now, there's been a couple of relationships that I thought were, yeah, this could be the one, but ultimately it turned out that no, it wasn't. But you know, and here's a great point is that as soon as I started realizing this wasn't going to be a great relationship, I exited the relationship. You know, and the point is, you don't want to stick around. When you start to recognize that it's not the right relationship, that there are major differences or major changes that one or both of you would have to make, it's my philosophy that that's not the right relationship. It's time to move on, because there are going to be people that are going to be a really good match for you. And that match, and most of us have never experienced that. You know, there's a couple of you, Shar and I don't know, Nancy, if I forget if you said that you were in an extraordinary relationship, or your late husband was an extraordinary mate. But you know, if you've had that, the bar is set very high for you, and that's okay. It should be. You just have an advantage over the rest of us that have never been in that extraordinary relationship or that soulmate relationship. Nancy says it was a great relationship. Awesome. And so the idea here is to step back and take a look at what we're doing and why we're doing it. You know, why are you pressuring yourself to get into a relationship? Why are you pressuring yourself into dating if you're not in the mindset? And we all go through seasons where dating is where dating is just not a priority. We need to get our heads straight. We need to get we may need to learn a couple of things, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is, and or heal some aspects of our lives so that we can be a better partner to whoever comes along. And let me see here. Terry says, I was for 40 years. That's why it's hard dating now. Absolutely. And that goes back to the fact that dating, Terry, is quite the numbers game. And I hate to call dating a game in that respect, that it is all about the numbers, though. It's the society that we live in gives us the ability to literally talk to anybody around the world, and so consequently that gives us some great opportunities, but it also fills the hopper with so many people that by the time you start sorting through them, you can be burned out. You know, and you know, we don't live in simple times where you can just settle and be comfortable. Our society just isn't that way anymore. And since we have that opportunity to talk to so many people, we have to be selective about who we talk to. And that's why it's so important to have your must-have and your deal-breaker list put together. And you know, because those are going to be your boundaries or your gatekeepers. Those are going to be what helps you allow people in and what helps keep people out. You know, gosh, I have 12 thoughts going on right there. So the important thing is to recognize, or to sometimes back away. If you're feeling pressured, it's time to step away from dating. It's time to step away from relationships, or trying to find a relationship. If you're dating somebody, It's time to step away from this putting pressure on you for sex. It's time to step away and say, no, hold on. I'm not ready for that. And if you're just starting to date, if you run into somebody that's into the 3-date or the 5-date rule, and it's out there, don't doubt me on that one. They may not come out and say it outright, but odds are by the 3rd date or the 5th date, somebody will be saying, "Well, let's go to bed," or they'll be moving you towards the bedroom. And when you put up any sort of resistance, they're going to say, "Well, listen, we've gone out 3 times. I've taken you to dinner, or 5 times, whatever it is. It's time that we sleep together." And that's no reason to sleep together. And just recognize that I don't care how nice a guy he is or how good a woman she is, it's time to move on. That's not the kind of relationship that you want. That's a relationship that's going to be based on one aspect of the 4 cornerstones of great relationships, and that's the physical cornerstone. So that's you have to be aware of that. And there are a number of other aspects of dating, and it can be out. And this I'm referring to outside pressure. A lot of our pressure comes from inside, but there's a lot of pressure from outside. And we talked about this in the beta group coaching last week about gosh, I just lost my thought. Terry, let me come to you. I saw your post and I completely lost what I was thinking. Terry says some guys think a date is coming to my house or his for sex. That's not a date. Nope, that's a booty call. That's what we call a booty call. And if that's what they're looking for, then right then and there, Terry, you know that he's not the right guy. He's not respecting your boundaries. He's not the gentleman that you're looking for. It's just plain and simple. And that's an easy way to check people off your list. It's if they're going to respect your boundaries, if they're going to respect your must-haves and your deal breakers, and not try to convince you otherwise, or try to chip away at them and because they're more interested in their intent. The conversation we were having, I think it was last week in the group coaching, was we were talking about setting these boundaries and not letting anybody try to talk you out of them, because they are what your wants and needs. And some people, and I've had it happen to me, where they'll start telling me what a catch I'm missing. That they're this, they're that, and you just don't know what you're missing. Well, yeah, I do know what I'm missing, because if you're trying to convince me that I need to lower my standards to accept you, then that one just gripes me to no end. And hey, Geneva, thanks for joining in. I've been out of a long relationship for 3 years now, and I'm just now starting to date again. Question though, I've been talking to someone since March and haven't met him yet. I feel some kind of connection, or maybe it's infatuation, but how do or will I know? Number one, and I'm going to pop this, Geneva, I'm not ignoring your question. I'm going to pop this up because I think this is not only relevant to what I was talking about, but also to your situation. And Nancy says you have to be true to yourself, which is absolutely right. And so, Geneva, let's see, you've been talking since March, so I'm going to say that's April, May, and we're almost through June. That's 3 months. The question I have for you is, why haven't you met yet? Have you talked on the phone, or are you still just texting and emailing? And I'll give you a chance to answer that. And here's the thing that you need to be aware of, Geneva. This is a potential red flag if you haven't met yet. It's been 3 months. This, even in the early days when I was dating 10 or 12 years ago, and dating was at least online dating was more conservative. If you weren't meeting within the first 30 to 45 days, something wasn't feeling right there. And so you are infatuated right now. Or I can say that it's infatuation, because you haven't even met. You don't. There's an amazing difference between even just talking on the phone. You can have a great conversation, a great connection on the phone, and you can meet in person, and there's just something missing. It's. I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but there's almost like a dead air. There's a silence. There's an awkward silence. Conversations don't flow. They're just kind of choppy, and you're kind of wondering what to say next. And so I have a big concern. Unless there's some really good reason that you guys haven't met yet. I would be very leery of this guy. And I don't know if you've made plans to meet and they've fallen through, or what the story is on that. But if you want to fill in some details, great. Or if you want to private message me, if you want to take this offline, we can do that. But I'd be happy to. And I'm just going to put up. And again, Abby says this sounds like a scammer, and that's kind of where I'm leading. But I'm looking for a little more information first. There could be some extenuating circumstances why that hasn't played out yet. But that's the red flag, Geneva, that I'm seeing also, is that he could be a scammer, and. And they are very smooth, so you have to be very careful. And again, I don't know if you've tried to meet. I don't know if there are issues with distance. I don't know if there's, and which also could be a red flag that it could be a scammer. So there's any number of things there but 3 months seems like an awfully long time. And there has to be some sort of connection there. If he's leading you on and saying, yeah, I'm really digging you, and and I guess I'm kind of dating myself, or, aging myself with that term. But if you're connecting, or seem to be, and you're developing feelings, you have to be very careful that he's not setting you up to start asking you for money. That is one of the biggest cons in the love scamming is a multi-billion-dollar worldwide industry. And so Geneva, if you want to fill us in or fill me in on some of that, I'd be more than happy to dive a little deeper. But and Nancy says absolutely. So just be very, 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 very cautious there. Not meeting. Terry says not meeting. By this time, yeah, there's got to be something going on something else going on there. Terry says, I've communicated, talked, and texted over a month once due to long distance. I felt infatuated with him. When we met, he wasn't what I imagined in my head. Yeah, that's we got to be careful there. I'll go down that rabbit hole in a minute. Nice guy, but not a match for me. If it's someone local, if I can't meet them within 30 days, next. And that's a great rule of thumb, Terry. That's an awesome rule of thumb. And so Geneva, if you're still here and watching, uh, these are comments from others, not just me. They recognize the possibility that there's problems there. But again, we don't have all the details. We're just seeing the red flags based on what you've shared. Um, and 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 Terry, the infatuation, can cause us to dream up some really incredible things, or to fantasize some really incredible things about people, and make them into our dating dream. And when you actually meet, it's nothing, like you say, it's nothing like you imagined. Here we go. Geneva says, one phone call conversation. Had plans, then kiddos were exposed to COVID. I canceled. He was married and was dislocated at his parents' lake house. His ex-wife is a lawyer. Got the house. They share 50-50 with their kids. Today he signed on his house. Um, is I'm getting that if I read that right, Geneva, that his divorce is not final. And Addie says, "Run, Geneva, run." And and I'm going to give you and I agree with Addie. Let me get Nancy in here real quick. I've been scammed 3 times. Never again. I see red flags all over this, Geneva. Please be careful. Okay, you're getting all kinds of input, not even from me, and I agree with all of it. And Geneva, here's another thing. I'm not sure that he's even divorced yet. He may be separated and still going through that divorce process. He is a terrible candidate for dating. Terrible. You're going to be one of his first dates out of the gate. Let's see. She says, we actually planned a spontaneous meetup out of blue, and he got cold feet. Maybe because it isn't final. Okay, yeah. Okay, here's the deal, Geneva. You're dating you're talking to a married man. Period. Dot. End. I don't care how long he's been separated. I don't care what how long he's been working on his divorce and yada yada yada. He's still married. The divorce is not final, and he's going to need at least a year. I don't know how long he was married. I don't know how long he was going to marry, and that'll give you generally some clue about what emotional state he's going to be in for the next several months or several years. And this is just one of those things that and Geneva, don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed here. We all start someplace, and she says, I never even thought to even ask. And of course not. It's because you're having a good time. You're infatuated. He's paying attention to you. This has all the earmarks of a bad relationship right from the get go. He may not. He's probably not a scammer, but he's still married, and so that's not going to be a healthy relationship. Period. Dot end. He needs a year, 2 years, 3 years before he's really emotionally ready. You're going to be his first shot out of the gate, his rebound relationship, so to speak. And we all go through that, or at least those of us on the divorce end. Uh, I've gone through it, and don't put yourself in that position to be his rebound, because he doesn't know what he's looking for. He doesn't know what he wants. He knows what he doesn't want. So be smart here. I would walk away from this. After our conversation tonight, I would get on the phone with him and say, hey, we're done. Your marriage isn't final yet, and you need time. You need at least a year out of your marriage before you're really dating material. And I don't want just tell him you don't want to be a rebound. Uh, let's see. And Addie says, we've all made that mistake, probably once. Absolutely. I know I've made it. And we all make errors while dating. Learn from your errors and move on. Absolutely. Geneva says, heck no, I don't want to be part of that. I've put too much work into myself to be going backward. Absolutely. That's the attitude to have. I love to hear that. And she says, thank you all. I appreciate you. And we appreciate, hey, Jill, thanks for joining in. We appreciate you for sharing, because that's not, Geneva, and for the rest of you, that's not necessarily easy to share, to get into some of those kind of details. And Geneva, never feel embarrassed about sharing those things, because look at the input that you got, and not just mine. You had Nancy, Terry, Addie, jumping in there, and anytime you have questions like that or concerns, just bring them up. Just or shoot me an email and say, Rick, or a direct message, and say, just tell me what's going on. And 95% of the time, I can tell you in just a couple of sentences what's going on. Saying, yep, this is good to pursue. Nope, it's not. And there were just too many red flags in your story, and it's just. Don't you've done, and you've been here a couple of years now, I think, following me, and you have made some huge progress. So, oh, let's see. First of all, I want to say, this is a great tribe. I'm lucky to be a part of it. Absolutely, we love having you here. And Paul says, this is an example of a great community here, and that's right, and it's you guys. You guys are awesome, and I'm thrilled that you jumped in to comment and share your thoughts and ideas with Geneva, and it makes the observations so much more sound. It's not just one cranky old man saying, get rid of him. Hey, Teresa, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. So you have a support group here, Geneva. So anytime you have questions, just dive in, and we're here every Monday. I know not everybody can be here every Monday, but if you mark it on your calendar, we'll have some fun, and hopefully. Yeah, I know. I try not to be. I try not to be a grumpy old man, but sometimes it happens. This week has been pretty good. I've gotten better. I shared, and I don't know if I shared this with you guys last week, but a friend of mine gave me a saying that that it started sinking in, and I started repeating it often, and I realized um, that I was becoming a grumpy old man because of it, and just by dropping this one particular phrase, yeah, life is pretty good again. So anyway, but oh, you've Teresa says, "What did I miss?" Oh, you missed the first half of the show. uh, did you take your medication? Yes, I've taken my medication. I've taken my happy pills. So anyway, this is a great example of how we can come together and help each other and work with each other, and 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 that's one of the reasons I really like the group coaching in the um, Dating Made Simple Academy group. They've we do a live Zoom call once a week, and I'll be opening that up again here in about a month or so. And for anybody else that would like to join in, I will be sharing some details about that later on. But it's a great community, and this is veering off our topic tonight. But I so appreciate you guys and your input, and Geneva, thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome. That was brave to come out and say, yeah, what about this? And it's not always easy to bare your soul and share what's going on, because for fear of getting chastised or abused, and we'll never try to do that here to anybody, because we all make mistakes. We've all been there. I know I've made more than my share, and that's why I'm here, is because I don't want you guys to be making some of these mistakes. And when I was first 12 plus years ago, um, when I was first going through this, I made all of these mistakes. I was somebody was my rebound relationship. And the strange thing is, I can't remember who it was. I have an idea, but it's 12 years ago. And Geneva says, just never know who else is going through it as well. Absolutely. And so that's another great observation, Geneva. It's your experience, and what we shared with you may trigger something in somebody else to say, "Oh crap, I'm going through that very thing right now." So the whole idea is to make good choices. Teresa's. Let me get Teresa up to speed here. Teresa, Geneva shared with us that she was talking to somebody for 3 months and haven't met yet, and as the story unwound, we came to discover that the guy is still married, and she had never thought to ask, and we shared with her that it's time to walk away from this guy and not screw around with that type of a relationship anymore, or that particular relationship anymore. And Shar says, the beauty of the group, we do learn from each other as well as from Rick. Oh, thank you. Yes, you do. And there's a lot of great input here. So and Hattie says, I could really share some stories. I can only imagine. And now Teresa says, "Oh boy, been there." Yep. So the perfect example. Teresa. As I just said, we've all been there. And so to be able to learn from each other, and to uh, this might be a different spin on pressure, Geneva. We might be pressuring you to walk away from that relationship. Hopefully, we are, because I think it's going to be a toxic, hurtful relationship for you right now. So, um, Teresa says, I dated a guy for a year, and his mom finally told me he was married. Oh, yikes! That's, see, there you go. And so that's why it's so important to have your must have and your deal breaker list, so that you can start spotting some of these things. Now, um, you and that's sometimes where a background check, doing a simple background check, going to court records, um, and just sorting out what's actually what, because not everybody's going to tell the truth. Uh, so it's there are a lot of different ways of finding things out, but in the long run, you do have to pay attention. You have to, and sometimes the learning is through making mistakes. Where those red flags are. Where do I, where should I start recognizing these red flags? And what actions or what reactions or what events should start triggering, or comments should start triggering red flags. It just comes from experience, and hopefully you're all gaining experience in these Monday Mastery events, and that's what I try to bring to you. So hopefully that's beneficial. And a lot of these things, are the pressure that we put on ourselves. Again, comes from fear. And the reality is that when you look back on almost anything you've been afraid of, more often than not, that fear was unfounded. And there's an acronym that I was taught years ago, for the definition of fear, is false evidence appearing real. And we can look at our fear of being alone, but right now we're all alone. I mean, we're all on our own, and we're surviving. But it's one of those things that you don't, unless you look back and say, look how far I've come. It's hard to recognize that it's hard to recognize that you're much stronger than you thought, and you're letting fear hold you back. You're letting fear cause you to make decisions that deep down in your soul is not the right decision for you. And Teresa says, sometimes I fear being alone. I'm assuming it's being alone, but now I think I'm getting better. Awesome. And it takes time. The best place to be is when you're in the dating world, is to be dating from a position of power, and that power comes from knowing that you're okay whether you're with somebody or whether you're not. It doesn't mean you don't want to be with somebody. It just means that you're not there yet, and it will come. A lot of it depends on your dating activity. How much activity, how actively are you dating? Do you have one date a week? Do you have one date a month? Are you meeting somebody new every week? Are you meeting somebody new once a month? Is it once every 6 months? There's again, like I said earlier, this is a process of numbers. And in the information society, you just picture this huge funnel and all these people piled up at the top of this funnel, and all trying to meet you. And we have to sort through them one at a time, and that takes time. And we didn't used to have that luxury, so to speak, of having access to literally thousands of people. And that's something that you really have to step back and think about. There are literally thousands of people out there that you have the possibility of meeting. And the idea is to sort through them and as best you can. And a lot of times you do that online, but you have to make decisions when you're out and about. Do you want to talk to somebody? Do you see somebody that you're attracted to? And I can't tell you how many times that I've walked up to somebody and introduced myself and said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And it just started a conversation and say, "Boy, I wish I never would have started that one." But then there are other conversations that I'm so glad that I said, "Yeah, I'm really glad I came up and talked to you." And Terry says, "I'm in no rush. I'm enjoying life and casually dating once in a while." And there you go. It's Terry and I forgot. Have you been widowed? Is it 3 years, 4 years? Teresa says, "You may have to stay involved with things, and I know serving helps." That's absolutely right. That's one of the surest ways to overcome loneliness. And 7 years, okay, for whatever reason I didn't think it was that long, but awesome. Not awesome. That was terrible to say. Thank you for sharing. Geneva says, another question. Was anyone else jealous when their ex got into a relationship? Is that normal? I'm going to let you guys. I'd like some of you guys to for your input there. For me, it depends on the person. If it was somebody that I really liked, and that there were possibilities, even though I knew it wasn't the right relationship. Yeah, I get a tinge of jealousy. But then I start to think that they're my ex for a reason. That there was something that wasn't right in that relationship. So yeah, I think it's human nature to have a tinge of jealousy when they get into another relationship, and especially and I think it happens more to ladies than guys, because guys tend to jump right into another relationship. So it starts to it hurts that they've jumped back into another relationship. But again, I think that's pretty much he would. It's pretty much normal to have that tinge of jealousy that he would dive into a relationship so quickly. Let's see. I'm not quite following. I'm reading here. Yeah, I'm having a tough time following it, Teresa. Nancy says, "I've not been in that position, but I believe I would be a little bit anyway." And Shar says, "No, I love my ex-husband's wife. Just feel sad that she is with him, and he is mean." But she is a wonderful woman, and the resident grandma in Minnesota when I'm in South Carolina. Oh, that's nice. Teresa says, "I meant to say I wish mine would, so he would leave me alone." Oh, your ex would find somebody so he'd leave you alone. Gotcha. Terry says, I dated a guy for a short time and had a tingle of jealousy, but I could soon see how compatible they are, and I'm glad they found each other. Very good. Yeah, and I think there's a natural tendency to feel a little bit of jealousy. If it starts getting out of control, then I would start seeking some help. But if it's just but you have to recognize that their life is going to go on. Just because you're not in a relationship yet, doesn't mean that they shouldn't be. So we all have to move at our own pace. We all have to do our own thing, and it's I would tend to just say, okay, well, that's that, and move on. And I know it's harder than that. It's easy to say, but it's just one of those things that don't focus on it. I mean, if you run into them, say hi, be courteous, be cordial. You don't have to be overly gooey about it, but just be nice. Uh, and Geneva says, yes, great point, Rick. Yeah, and it's just, thank you. So just, it's pretty much normal, and I think anybody else that's gone through it will and is honest will say, yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. But then and again, I go back to what I tried to say a little bit earlier, is that you have to think back to why you're not with them anymore, and that and if you need to write it down on a piece of paper, all the reasons you're not together, then do it. And you can do the old Ben Franklin, what we call the T-bar, and just you draw a line across the top of the paper, and pros on one side, cons on the other, and write the pros of that person down on one side and the cons on the other. And generally, the cons are going to be a much longer list than the pros. And if it's not, even if it's not, if they've got just one of your deal breakers, I mean, that should tell you right there that it was not an extraordinary relationship. So when you step back and look at it a little more analytically, and you think through it with your head, the heart is always going to lead us in the wrong direction. So it's important to be able to step back from the emotions and from the infatuation and unfortunately, we tend to think more of the good things of past relationships than we do of the bad things. But it's those bad things, the negative things, are the reasons we left. And so pay attention to those and focus on those. And then the heart's going to say, yeah, I guess that's right. Let him be somebody else's problem. Or if he found his soulmate, great. Then they're a great match, but he wasn't your soulmate. So don't be jealous too long, I guess, is the bottom line. So, well, I am good one, Nancy. Nancy's, Rick, surely not. Yes, and stop calling me Shirley. Bump. And Geneva says, yes, doing that. Yes, that dang heart will always lead us wrong. Have to follow our intuition, gut. Absolutely. And actually, even think through it. Think of the positives and the negatives. Don't leave the mind out of it. Gut instinct. I go with that every time. And Teresa says, I can't hardly remember any good times, so it's easy to let go. There you go. And I know you had a very toxic relationship. Nancy says, I hope our heart doesn't always lead us wrong. Well, the heart is going to be the secondary, but it's the heart will more often lead us in the wrong direction than the right one. We have to make sure that all of the right pieces are in the right place to begin with, and then the heart can take over the emotions. When you know that all the pieces come together. If we were to make decisions solely on our emotions, or on our heart, based on our hearts, we would never find the right relationship, because there's going to be the infatuation and raging hormones up front, and then when that diminishes, we're left wondering, oh crap, what did I just do? And on so many levels. So it's I always encourage you to think, and that's to use your head. And that's why, again, I go back to the must have and the deal breaker list, because after an awesome date, your heart is all a flutter. You can go back and say, does he have all of this? And I'm referring to Nancy. Does he have this? Does he have everything on my must-have list, or does he have any of my deal breakers? And you use that as the foundation for saying, yeah, let's have another date, or no, let's not. So, and Nancy says, I'll go with balance. There you go. So anyway, with that, I've got to jump on another call here in about 3 minutes. So I'm going to wrap up today. Thank you, everyone. This was an awesome session. Geneva, thanks for sharing your situation with us, and thanks for laying it all out there, and thank you for everybody to pitch in and say, speak your piece to help Geneva make an awesome decision. And so anyway, I thank you guys. Have a great and blessed week. And you're very welcome, Geneva and Teresa. I will see you next Monday for another Monday Mastery. And if you have any questions in the meantime, shoot me a message, or if you have any suggestions for next week, send them to me, and I will see what we can do about making your subject, your question, the question of the week. Thanks, Nancy. You too. Have a great week, everyone. I love you guys. Thank you for participating today. It was awesome.